All right, I think we're live. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. If anyone in the chat can hear me, just push 1. Oh, okay, I got a confirmation. Thank you for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 415. Please hit the like button as you come in. Share the video if possible. Hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. Today is Black Tech Talk. If you want to engage in this discussion, you're welcome to get on the panel. There'll be a link in the chat. When you click on the link, make sure you raise your hand so that one of us can acknowledge you and advance you to the panel. Just as an FYI, if you're trying to get into IT for the first time and you are having some doubts, we do offer IT mentorship. If you are already in IT and you're looking to transition to a new role, we do offer IT coaching. If you have questions about your resume and salary negotiations, we do offer assistance in that area. If you're in the tri-state area and you're looking for IT contract work, Nagona 11 does have recs on the table for those who can apply to it. Let me give a shout out to people in the chat. Green Machine, peace and prosperity to you, my brother. Excalibur, salute. Real life is not in cyberspace. Peace and blessings, my dear. Q4, what's good? Complex, what's going on? Mega Montana, peace. Green Machine, what it do? Taylor Watson, what's up? Link is in the chat. If you want to engage in the discussion. Rain and Woman, peace to you. Mike Shinnery, peace. All right. Shout out to Dunn. We got more than enough likes. Engineering Cannabis, what's going on? So we had some very broad discussions last night and this week. A lot of people interested in getting into IT for the first time. And I think the majority, maybe 2/3 of our IT audience are people who have never been in IT or in looking to get into it, or are stuck in an idea as to which path they want to go into in terms of IT. And so I wanted to have this sort of discussion. This is the first Black Tech Talk of 2020. So make sure we set the record straight, have realistic expectations. And answer a lot more questions than what we've done last year, because there's a large constituency of people who want to get in. So let me start with let me start with people who are trying to get in. We have to be realistic about what the objective is here, right? You're trying to get in, and you're unsure as to where do you think you're best suited. I always judge people by whether or not they're software versus hardware people. And I can tell by the way they think and the way they talk and the way they conduct themselves. A lot of guys, a lot of people who worked on cars and work with their hands, those are hardware people. Those are people who are hands-on. People who are very analytical, those tend to be software developers or coders for that matter. And I don't want people, take a hardware person and try to shove them into a software role and vice versa, because people are comfortable in certain areas. So why not, divide the people up and try to make sure we're addressing people's concerns up front. So let me check to make sure who's trying to get on the panel.
Hey, what's going on, Mike?
Hey, hold on. What's going on, man?
Chilling.
All right. Give me 1 second. I realize the All right, can you hear me now? Yeah, I think Complex's mic is either breaking up or my connection is breaking up.
It might be me, Mike. I'm in the car, dude.
All right, man. Are you on?
Yeah, it might be me. So I'll be muted for a little bit. Yeah, I'm on the road, so I'll be muted.
Okay. All right. So last night, it was presented to me that some people want to get into cloud computing. And I'm not saying that this is a unattainable goal. What I want people to focus on is what are the requirements of a cloud computing person. So let's look at some job profiles, right? Let's look at some job profiles real quick. Let's look at Indeed. AWS Solutions Architect. Let's look at this. All right, this is straight from Amazon. Let me get this in. All right, this is straight from Amazon. And the question last night was AWS Solutions Architect, Cloud Solutions Architect. AWS is the 800-pound gorilla in the market right now. So for all intents and purposes, this is all that matters. So it says, Solutions Architect, are you passionate about your next generation of cloud storage options? Are you excited about the scaling challenges of integrating huge on-prem SAN, NAS, and object storage installations with cloud storage services to increase availability and simplify disaster recovery? Come join us. AWS is looking for experienced storage solutions architect who will be the subject matter expert SME for hybrid storage and data transfer services such as AWS storage gateway, data sync, and transfer for SFTP, so secure FTP, file transfer protocol. The storage solutions architect will work with the service teams and partner closely with the business development and sales teams to enable large-scale customer use cases and drive the adoption and revenue of AWS hybrid storage and data transfer services. Specialists at storage architect will develop white papers, blogs, reference implementations, and presentations to enable customers and third parties to fully leverage AWS storage services. The specialist storage architect, solutions architect, will also create field enablement materials for the broader SA population to help other SAs understand how to integrate AWS storage options into customer architectures. Finally, the specialist solutions architect will also work with product management to prioritize roadmap features based on customer feedback. Roles and responsibilities: evangelize current and future AWS services and technologies. Build and maintain technical trusted advisor relationships with influential technical decision makers for the successful adoption and deployment of AWS services and technologies. Work in collaboration with the sales team to create and execute business plans to accelerate the adoption of AWS, exceed revenue goals, and drive customer satisfaction. Create and share best practice knowledge amongst the AWS solutions architect community. Identify customer requirements and providing feedback into product management. Basic qualifications: 7+ years of design, implementation, consulting experience with large-scale storage solutions, experience with IT storage architectures, how SAN and NAS solutions integrate into large-scale production applications. So NAS is not the wrapper. They're not referring to the wrapper. They're actually saying network attached storage. Experience with data replication, high availability, data archive, backup and restore, disaster recovery, business continuity storage practices. Strong knowledge of file, block, and object storage concepts and protocols, and where to appropriately apply each when building storage solutions. Technical degree required. Preferred qualifications: professional experience architecting, operating solutions built on AWS. Experience communicating effectively across internal and external organizations for full, complex, mission-critical solutions. Experience with enterprise storage vendors such as EMC, NetApp, Veritas, HP, IBM, and Commvault. Experience with encryption at rest and key management solutions. Hands-on experience working in Linux environments, including scripting capabilities. Understanding of AWS storage services such as S3, EBS, EFS, Elastic File System, and hybrid and data transfer services such as AWS Storage Gateway and Data Sync and Transfer. Use of AWS in production, A+. Comfortable presenting to large audiences. Technical consulting and architecture with large-scale engagements. Experience using and adapting to new technologies. So what's happening here is this is not an entry-level job. You cannot certify your way into this. They're not even asking for a certification at this level. If you're a solutions architect, you need to be able to perform. You need to be able to demonstrate to a client their architecture and how an AWS architecture fits in with their environment. How do you fit on legacy systems, which is what they're talking about: EMC, NetApp, Veritas, HP, IBM, and Commvault. Those are legacy. That's legacy architecture, legacy systems integrated into next generation cloud systems such as AWS. You need to be able to demonstrate this. This is not an entry-level role. This is for experienced people. It says 7+ years of design, implementation, consulting experience with large-scale storage solutions. That's what they're expecting from you. Experience with IT storage architectures, how storage attached networks and network attached storage solutions integrate into large-scale production applications. This is not entry-level at all. This is the big leagues. You cannot certify your way into this. You cannot get a certification and think that that's going to get you into this role, a solutions architect role. No, that's not how this works. This is for the, these are the people responsible for driving technology. They're not for people who have never worked in IT and think that taking a certification is going to get them there. A certification is not going to help you in this area at all, period. Bloodsport, that's not exactly what I said. I think the context, and let me read this out so people that listen to this can understand what I'm saying. Bloodsport says, I think the problem is in older shows, you said you don't need experience to get into the cloud, but you always stress you can do the work. No, that's not exactly what I said. I would never tell anybody with no experience to get into the cloud. You have to have some form of IT experience. I've been very vocal about that. I would never send anybody, with no experience into an environment that they have no idea about. I've never said that. If you could point out where I said that, I'd be interested in hearing.
Hey, Mike, can you hear me okay now?
Your mic is breaking up a lot.
It's breaking up a lot? Okay. Mutual Black asks, would you suggest AWS over Juniper? I'm not sure what that means. Juniper is a network, is a networking company, and AWS is a cloud services company, two different things. Not apples to oranges. Johnny Blaze asks, Mike, do you have recommendations for portfolios for IT professionals? IT portfolios or portfolios for IT professionals. I actually don't. A lot of what I'm referring to in terms of like a portfolio is just the execution of previous work. But maybe you can come onto the panel. You can kind of explain your perspective a little bit better. Let me drop the link again. So what are the salaries for a solutions architect? Let me expand the screen back up again. A solutions architect, anywhere between 100 to 150 grand a year. I've seen some go for as much as 200 grand a year. Not uncommon. Yeah, here's one right here, 140 grand a year. Yeah, again, 150 grand a year. That all of these roles that are being posted pretty much want you to have some vast experience in terms of architecture. Now, when I talk about cloud computing, I'm not talking about going from help desk to that. I'm saying there are certain roles that can be attributed to someone at, maybe at the mid-level, the mid-tier. maybe you came from a help desk role, maybe you came from, you know, in the cloud, I think they call it customer success engineer or customer success analyst. That might be the equivalent of a help desk person, but those are very far few in between. So can you certify your way into a solutions architect role? No, not going to happen. All the architects I work with have at least 15 years of experience. That's not to discourage anybody from wanting to get into the cloud, but you have to take into consideration, like the previous role I just read off from AWS, from Amazon. They're saying at least 7 years of architecting, not just 7 years in IT, but 7 years of architecting. So we have to take into consideration that an architect's responsibility is really critical. You can't just pass one certification and be like, hey, let me apply for this role. They're gonna, you know, I can tell you right now, a lot of hiring managers are gonna look at that and just delete your resume or just pass over you. And so those are some of the things that we have to keep in mind. What's going on, Johnny Blaze?
Hey, Mike, how you doing? How am I coming in?
Oh, you're good, bro.
Okay. Hey, no, doing pretty good, man. My question was, I was just trying to say, how would an IT professional, I guess, demonstrate that they can do these things to a hiring manager or whatnot? I remember when I was trying to get into IT years ago, back during the Windows NT days, I went for a help desk interview. Mm-hmm. And I interviewed with the hiring manager first. Everything went great. Then the actual director of the help desk came in. She interviewed me, and she brought out a laptop and basically ran me through a test. And let's just say I didn't get the job.
Yeah. And see, they do things like that to weed people out. A lot of the time, it's about whiteboarding.
Okay.
Gabe has talked about this in the past, and I've spoken about this as well. A lot of times, your ability to whiteboard a problem and come up with a solution is very critical. And what I see here in a lot of young Black males and Black people in general is that they have a difficult time articulating problem-solving management or analysis, for that matter. And so what happens here is if you can't whiteboard model, you're going to have a difficult time actually getting past that interview. So you might be able to come up with a portfolio like saying, hey, I've worked on these previous things in my time. That's usually what certifications are for. Certifications are usually that stopgap for interviews to say, hey, this guy is Cisco certified, CCNA, CCNP. So I don't really need to have a real deep conversation with him about that because I already know he knows his protocols and things like that. And routing and switching management, I don't really need to worry too much about that. Let me ask him some different scenarios, some business scenarios, business case scenarios. And what's going to happen here is they're trying to test your personality. How do you think on your feet? How do you deal with temperament, right?
Okay.
All that is more important than, just having that portfolio, because the portfolio is good for people coming out of college, but from a long-term perspective, if you've been in the industry for quite some time, it's going to be difficult to even just use a portfolio. They can tell by the way you talk and having the conviction in your voice whether or not you can actually do some of that stuff that you're talking about. So I would say, yeah, if you don't have any other experience, yeah, that might be good to actually, create a portfolio for yourself and say, hey, I've coded in this language. Let me show you. And, whoop-de-woo, whatever it is. Maybe they might have a laptop. Maybe you might bring a laptop, write some code, things of that nature. GitHub is actually that stopgap, right? That area of questioning where you say, well, can you write in C++ or something like that? Well, go look at my GitHub. Let's log into that. They look at things like that. And that's a part of your portfolio. So certifications, GitHub, whiteboarding, that's a part of that portfolio process.
Okay. So it sounds like you're describing the portfolio more so for someone who is, like you said, definitely fresh out of school, someone who's got only a couple of years in the industry, probably less than 3.
Internships, externships is really
Okay.
make up your portfolio.
Okay.
So you can get by in some areas, but not in majority of the areas. That's why when they broke out that laptop to you, it was
Oh yeah.
nail in the coffin.
Because
Right?
I was fresh out of NT. I just got my certification in Windows NT,
Okay.
and I didn't have any real experience except what I learned in school. And pretty much, when she had me go through those different things, how to do help desk stuff, yeah, she could tell.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, I think for some Black people, depending on what kind of role you're trying to get into, that might help. In other roles, like a solutions architect role, that's not going to happen. Solution architects are usually renegade people, man. They can kind of run their own. They kind of run on their own. They don't really take orders from too many people. They kind of give out orders and stuff like that. So they usually delegate down and not delegate up.
Okay.
Right. So the solutions architect usually has people working under them, an engineer here, an analyst there, business intelligence officer or something like that is usually helping drive some of the initiative. So they usually operate from top down. So they really don't have to worry too much about what you ran into, but they usually get move on their own, so to speak. They're hard to control because their skill set is so much in demand they can move around on their own.
Okay. All right. Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man. I assume that you're out of the IT race now.
Oh man, like I said, Windows NT. We talking like 1999, 2000.
Okay.
I still dibble and dabble here and there, man, but my skills of like, yeah, they're gone.
Yeah. I think ageism plays a role. Ageism can play a role. We got Meta tomorrow on the panel. What's going on, MOT? I think MOT might be driving. So this is.
Oh, sorry, I keep forgetting that this stuff you have to unmute it.
Yeah.
What's going on, man?
I'm chilling, fam. What do you have since what you've listened to so far? What do you have to say?
Yeah, I mean, people need to understand that it's easy to get an internship. Well, I wouldn't call it an internship, but start helping at like long-term care facilities, or what's another good one? Like any nonprofit.
Yep.
Who really don't like spending money on anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude, you could go there, say that, okay, I can help you on the weekends, but when it comes to my resume,
Mm-hmm.
I want you to say that I was doing this job here. Now, I won't require any money, but I do want to help out because you're technically volunteering, but you're getting on-the-job help as you're volunteering. That's what I did for like the March of Dimes and like a whole bunch of organizations before I got out of school for like a year.
The March of Dimes, is that like, a walk for Strags?
Yeah.
Just joking, man. But no, that's a good point.
Take the Last Drag Foundation, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point, though. Nonprofits. Nonprofits do rely on a lot of hand-me-downs and donations and things like that. Open source technologies, they really rely on a lot of that. So that's a very good point. Bloodsport asked a question, how can one become an architect in IT? Architects usually have lots and lots of experience, and they usually are trained, have a trained mindset for architecture in IT. There's actually a specific way of how you write out on a whiteboard, which is something I've learned over the last couple of years. You'll notice that their penmanship and their ability to connect scenarios together enterprise architectures, software architectures, and things like that. There's a lot of learning that goes into that. And so usually all the architects I know have at least 10 to 15 years experience in
Minimum.
in that area. They're not somebody who just came out of Piggly Wiggly from bagging groceries or something like that, or pushing carts around the parking lot. They have some experience in network design. Network design is usually the primary thing that they focus on, because without a network topology, you don't have an environment, no way for communications to take place. So they focus a lot on that. Creole Cajun Living, she seems to have a lot of experience in information technology, so you all might want to follow her. Trav says portfolio are important, so is passing coding tests. Yeah, that makes sense when you're coming out of like your your bachelor's degree, master's degree, and you haven't really you're still green, you're still green behind the ears or wet behind the ears. That matters. But usually in the internship, you've already gained enough experience in that area, because they do throw a lot of work at you. And you have somebody watching over you as well to make sure that, to correct your mistakes. Bloodsport asks again, what is the next step after help desk position? So next step after help desk, traditional help desk is someone who's really on the front line of absorbing a lot of incoming requests in terms of calls and tickets and things of that nature. The next step after that, logical, is usually desktop support. Desktop support are people who work on the floor. They're usually mobile, so they're usually going from floor to floor, desk to desk, implementing and resolving and troubleshooting a lot of computer issues for the environment. So that's usually the logical step behind that. Most help desk people are usually in there 6 to 9 months before they ghost. And then they spend a few years in desktop support because they're just so needed, because technology is, we're in a transition phase right now, right? It's 2020. A lot of companies have maybe 2 or 3 weeks before Microsoft shuts down Windows 7 support. A lot of these companies still have 100,000 computers that are still on Windows 7. So there's yeah. If you look at GE has about 300,000 employees. GSK has about 100,000. IBM has about 100,000 employees. It's massive companies, man. Through acquisitions and whatnot and mergers, they acquired all these computers, or they acquired all these employees, and they have these systems that are not fully tested to be on Windows 10, and so they're stuck on Windows 7. But Microsoft is shutting down support in about 2 weeks. They got to get off of that at some point. They need all the desktop support people they can get to help transition. That's why desktop support is in such high demand right now. And it's going to be in high demand between now and 2025, because there's a lot of companies that need to get off of Windows 7, need to get off of Windows 8. So desktop support is paying big dividends right now.
Hey, Mike, I got a question. What is the, I guess, the average lifespan of like an operating system like Windows 7 and things like that now?
Usually about 5 years, 5 to 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah, on the consumer side, it's usually about three to 5 years, and on the enterprise side, it might stretch out to 7 years, depending on what kind of contract a organization may have. When I used to work for a certain largest financial organization in the country, they had a $500,000 contract with Microsoft, and just to have basically commandos drop in from at any given time to resolve issues. These are basically Microsoft has like Navy SEALs that for IT that basically drop in within a few minutes in case something does go wrong for any organization if they pay for it. So they're
The federal government is moving toward that right now.
Yeah. These are guys who can drop from anywhere. They're just sitting at home usually, waiting for the call to come in. So
My brother does that in Washington. He has a whole bunch of contracts from Washington for like McCord and all that kind of stuff. And what he does, he just goes to their own base and fix their system. So they already don't even need like a comm squadron or communication. Well, at least for the Air Force, called communication squadron. What they've done is they're pretty much you start hiring those type of specialists that sound like $250,000 contract, and whenever something goes wrong, they have a response time, like the police or anything else, to fix stuff.
Yep. These people are usually located within the region, so they're always within 90 minutes response time. They're literally Navy SEALs for IT.
Sound like IT first responders.
Yeah, it is.
Your first responder is usually your help desk. They're usually the first responders. But Navy SEALs, these are the guys who they got badge access. They walk into data centers. They know what's wrong. They don't even have to talk to anybody. They already got the text message or the email to come in, and they just basically go do their thing. You kind of just stay out their way.
Yeah, I mean, like the VA in Denver had that. You do something, you press this button, and in like an hour, some dude was there fixing on it.
Yep.
What it is, they got rid of like the IT departments because paying that kind of low money for those type of results, it just wasn't cost effective. So what they started doing was making these contracts so that way they can have specialists who come in and do everything. And like you said, badge access, they walk in, everything had a number on it, walk in, boom, 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 this person is there, and they out.
Yep. Yeah. So that's the process of desktop support and whatnot. They have various names for it: desk side support, desktop support, IT technician, IT analyst. At the end of the day, the responsibilities are the same. So
it used to be called hardware analyst.
Yeah,
that's what it started off being called.
Yeah, because there was a lot more stuff going on back in the 90s. Everything was really hardware based. You didn't have a whole lot of software. I mean, you had Novell, and then you had HP Unix, and then you had IBM AIX, and then you had Microsoft NT, and then you had Solaris from Sun Microsystems. There was a lot of hardware back then that went with those platforms, and so that's why you had a lot of the title hardware technician. So I see Gabe is in the chat, and let me read some of these questions. It says, I currently intern as a tech assistant. I want to go to help desk and then to security. Is that a logical route? It can be a logical route, depending on how much experience you have with help desk. Depending on what you're working on. Where I work, we wouldn't hire a help desk person. We have specialists. So that's really what we focus on is
Mike.
Yes, sir.
I can handle that question. When I worked at like the largest cable provider in the United States, that's exactly what I did. I came in as a person who dealt with the internet and stuff on the phone. Then I went from there to hardware support. I went from there to network administration. And since I knew a lot about analytics, I moved to like a business analyst. And I did that before I started working there and going on my own. So yes, if you're with the same company and the company is pretty stable, but get ready for a lot like a lateral moves and not really much pay, but you can still get the experience to turn their experience and go somewhere else. Now I've seen people turn those positions into other positions outside of those organizations, but you know how it is. With big companies, people want to stay there a long time because they think that it's safe and stable, but it's really the skills that make you stable, not really whether the business is stable or not. So that's still a good, realistic route, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Great points. Absolutely. And you kind of went in the direction I was going to go into, which was it all depends on the organization. Like I said, where I work, we don't take people from help desk. We have people who are
Outside people.
have to be very experienced in what they're doing, because the environment is very fragile, and they don't want to have to train anybody. They're expecting that you already have the skill set ready. Maybe in a security operations center for like a big vendor, like a managed service provider, that might be one thing. But in our environments, you know, in big pharma and in big tech and stuff like that, they're expecting you to have those skill sets already coming in the door. They don't want to have to train you at all. Call it what you want. At the end of the day, you know, that those are the expectations that they have. Just the same thing as a solutions architect. You're not getting trained as a solutions architect. I'm sorry, that's just not the way we, you know, that's not the way it works. No, that's 10 to 15 years experience at best. 7 years is what they, you know, minimum is what AWS is requiring. 7 years, not even 10 to 15, but 7, just with architecture alone. So
the Air Force is learning that mistake right now of training hackers. And like the end of the enlistment, they're gonna work for like the CIA or something.
Yep.
So
yeah,
pretty much training everybody else's employees whenever you do start doing that. Because once you give people that type of information that quick, and once they become confident at it, they out.
mm-hmm.
That's how come they don't train people or do on-the-job training, because they'll be stuck in that loop of on-the-job training.
You know what they've been doing, MOT, is they've been making people sign contracts.
NDAs?
No, commitment contracts. So that you
non-competitive? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Commitment, 3 years. Okay.
Yeah. So you can't just get up and leave. So what was happening before at one of the organizations I used to work at is that the organization would pay for your certification. So you'll get CCNA or CISSP or something like that within 6 months. As long as you was there for 6 months, they would pay for it. What was happening was people would get the certification after 6 months, and they're gone. And the organization is left holding the bag, so to speak. And this person would go work for a bigger organization with that certification and whatnot. It was a disaster. It was a disaster. So they changed policies to reflect that you have to be here for at least 1 year minimum before we pay for a certification. And when you do pay for that certification, you're going to be here for another year too. So we're going to get 18 months out of you no matter what.
Yeah. I mean, because it's an investment for them, but it's really beneficial for you both. And a lot of these companies have these programs. Like I said, when I worked at the largest cable manufacturer, you had to seek out this information. They really wouldn't tell you unless they were somebody that they wanted you to have this information. And none of the stuff were like in employee handbooks or any of that other stuff. So
nowadays they require people to share knowledge, and so we have what we call internal wikis. Basically, you have a Microsoft SharePoint that where whatever responsibilities that you have as a tech has to be documented into that SharePoint server, and so that other people can look at it and see if anything was to happen to you, got in a car accident, you got sick, or you got abducted or something like that. They need to be able to refer back to those documentations that is inside the SharePoint, so that they can know exactly what you're doing, and they can transfer that that knowledge and skill set to the next person coming in. Because if you have a person that has all of this worldly knowledge, but they're not sharing it, that person becomes very dangerous to the organization. That's how you get insider threats.
Yeah.
Mugen Black asked a question. So if I save up money and take the certification on my own, I can leave at 6 months. You can leave whenever you want. The only problem is what happens when the next employer asks a question and says, well, why did you leave after 6 months? What was the problem? Well, can we contact your supervisor? Supervisor's gonna say, hey, this guy was a flake, man. Legally not supposed to say that, but in more or less different terms, that's what they will say about you. This guy, he doesn't really stick around too many places. He's 6 months here, 3 months there. Got to be some explanation, explaining you have to do to the next employer, the next hiring manager. So that's what goes down. Next question, again, that I see is that, you know, what certification should we get? We've gone over this enough times, but we can never go over it. You know, enough for these sort of live streams. A+ is always the front runner. The latest version of the A+ covers a lot more ground than when myself and MOT were coming up. Now it covers it covers cloud, it covers networking. If you can pass the A+ now in 2020, there's a high probability you can do your job. You can do 80% of your job. The rest of the 20% is up to you, your customer service skills and, you know, your confidence and things like that. That comes from you. So yeah, A+ is always the first thing out the gate. I tell people that all the time. I know there's a lot of people who want to argue and say, well, you know, I don't agree with certifications. I don't, you know.
Oh, okay.
I've been in the industry for, you know, since the early 2000s, mid 2000s. And I can tell you firsthand, most organizations want you to be certified, especially for warranty purposes. Lenovo, Dell, HP, Verizon, IBM. They don't want you touching their stuff unless you're certified. If you look at a lot of documentation.
Certifying, I mean, like, you know, people don't understand that certifying is a sign off on that you could do your skill. I mean, it's one thing to go through your BSN nursing kind of stuff, but if you haven't done like the in-hospital type of clinician type of technical work that go with it, the BSN don't mean shit.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you can't fake the funk in those areas because
you can't.
You got to be able to demonstrate that you have some form some way of measuring your skill set, and a certification is how someone, a hiring manager, can actually measure it, right? Even if you do have it, they're going to try to test you in other areas too during that interview. They'll ask you at least 5 questions, scenarios, and you got to basically go through all those scenarios. Like I said, I had a guy, you know, who's supposed to be CISSP, and I asked him, you know, well, how, you know, what's the difference between a RJ11 and an RJ45? He could not explain this.
Are you serious?
He could not explain this.
You mean the basic phone cable, Ethernet? Well, what?
He couldn't explain.
He couldn't tell you. He couldn't tell you.
Couldn't tell you the difference. Couldn't tell you if it was a twisted pair, a 2 twisted pair. Couldn't tell you. And so that's why when you get a certification, you can't just get it with no experience. I mean, yeah, he's studying for the certification, but he had no idea what he was studying for. He just wanted the certification so he can get more money. But at the end of the day, a person like me in the interview is going to eat his ass alive. He
couldn't show competence.
No, man, no.
That's it. And that was one of the things, like in the healthcare field, we have this JCO inspection. They come through and they kept asking, show us your competency records. Well, we kept trying to, you know, the military, we kept trying to show them training records. And the lady said, look, I don't want to see training. I want to see competence, that your people, how do you show that they are competent every single year? And certification does it because you have to recertify in a lot of these IT fields over and over again versus like some just degree you get once and walk away from it.
Yeah. Yeah, but the certifications now, the latest version of the certifications, from my understanding, I met with CompTIA a couple months ago at a meet and greet for regional meetings, and they changed it to reflect exactly what we're talking about now: the ability to execute. Before it was just a knowledge base. Now they have simulations inside the A+ and the Network Plus that you have to perform those tasks for. And if you cannot, and those simulations are heavily weighted, and if you cannot pass those simulations, you can't pass the certification. You can answer all the questions you want, but if you can't get those simulators down pat and pass those, it's of no good use. So.
And Mike, well, here's the other thing. That's a good idea to always stay on top of that.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, they still could be the sole source person to do everything in the United States. And if they had not done that, other companies would have popped up and would have been able to do that and take them out. So it's very smart for them to do that, and it protects everybody in the whole thing. You know, if somebody did something wrong and they're quote unquote A+ certified, that could make them responsible.
Right. Right.
I mean, this reminds me of something that the Air Force does, and MOT. I don't know if you remember the old the Air Force training plans that we had for each career field. It was broken up into 3 parts. You had your subject knowledge, your task knowledge, and your task skill. And we have to go through get signed off based on those exact same things.
Well, when I was in, it was called SKTs. That's what
yes, we still, yep, the SKTs, yep, it's still that.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Yep.
Yep. Yeah. Gabe A in the chat says, I have a technical manager who has no certification, but he is very well known in the security industry for his work. Certifications depend on the organization. See, that's fine that one individual
he's distinguished. There's a difference between distinguished and somebody who's out the gate, who's trying to get by based off of the same pathing as that. That person has to demonstrate still that he was that type of guy. So that is an excellent point by Gabe, but you know, we're trying to make sure that people ain't trying to bullshit some ways into some type of system, and you don't want to be known as the guy going around getting embarrassed for showing up to stuff, interviewing for things you have no idea of business about, because they will have your LinkedIn sent to a whole bunch of hiring managers in the area once you start doing shit like that.
Yep. And that's a good point. And not saying there's any, not knocking Gabe's point, but the exception doesn't swallow the rule. You know, I work with security scientists, not engineers, not technical managers, but security scientists. You know, people who are involved in the curation of reverse engineering and security engineering, security architecture and things like that at the deep level. You know, that have worked with DoD and things like that to come up with different programs and whatnot. Who have worked in these areas for quite some time. At one point, they held a certification. They might have held a CISSP or something like that early in their time. But because of the sort of work that they have done, they've been able to forego the renewing of their certification, because for the work that they do, there is no way to certify their skill set. It's already quantified in their years of experience and distinguishment. So, you know, if anything, they could actually go to a college and actually get, you know, an honors degree or something like that, or get honored in. That's the sort of work that they do.
Yeah, it's kind of like continuing education.
Yep,
like certain career fields.
Yep, CEUs. Yep, continuing education credits. And I don't want to send people from the Black Brain Trust out into the field, you know, with no certification. I mean, MOT couldn't hire somebody. I mean, yeah, he may be able to shift 21 gears on a Mac or something like that, a Mac truck or something like that. But at the end of the day, he still needs to be CDL.
This is why they had to stop letting people fresh out of the military drive trucks, because while they technically could drive a truck in off-road conditions, and they would have been doing that in their MOS or AFSC or whatever the Navy or Marines are called, when it came to actually demonstrating performance on an actual road for a Department of Transportation test, they couldn't do it. They could drive, but at the end of the day, if they ever had to demonstrate that they had to actually do a DOT inspection on their truck, it's like, well, how was you signing these government affidavits every day saying that you did a pre-trip when you technically never had to do a pre-trip in the Army? They didn't even have a certification system for that. So that's kind of why they had to like force everybody to still get their CDL, despite how much experience they did have. Because when it came down to competencies and actual them demonstrating, other than just manually doing the work, they really couldn't do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, man. That's a good point. I mean, you're handling, you know, this massive load on a trailer, man. Can't afford to lose that load, especially if it's flammable, like a gas or something like that. Can't afford to be losing. Like that stuff has to be certified, man.
Especially hazmat loads. You mess around and get pulled over by PUCO. That's the what it's called, a different part of the DOT for each state. That's part of the federal government who pulls you over when you got one of them hazmat. Dude, you're in a world of truck of trouble if you don't know what mixes with what and how much this stuff needs to be spaced. But yeah, you have to know that stuff. You can't just be pulling this stuff. You have to know this stuff. Yeah, so trust me, it can get real technical real fast. You just step up a little bit. So
yeah. I think as Black people, especially Black men in particular, why not certify up? You got to be better than the competition.
man, yes, indeed, man. Like, dude, listen, man. If there's a certification out there for your field, you know how much more that does for you.
Yeah.
Having an actual certification, how much more effort you put into going in front of people and proving your worth in a certain specific field, rather than just having a 4-year degree that's 8 years behind the current technology on the market and trying to ride off that. People who are actually in the field on the ground, that's what they want to see. While human resources want to see that generalized education, the actual hiring manager of the department want to see up-to-date current. That's what certifications are. Up-to-date current information that's certified you know what you're doing. Education and theory, that's how many bits in the byte in the damn network infrastructure. Okay, that may help you out, but at the end of the day, if something happens, nobody knows how many bits in a byte is going to help you solve this damn situation. That's why you need to be certified.
Yep. Yeah. Let me go to Manjiu. Am I saying your name right?
Yeah, I completely agree. Certifications are huge, like in the tech space. And then too, like if you have like a roadmap, like where you're trying to go as far as like certifications, how to put them together, like certification stacks, like, you're going to get this certification in one field, you're going to add it with a Scrum certification or like a project management certification. And like where you kind of have like an end goal of like where you're trying to go is definitely a good thing, even if you can like just kind of like foreshadow like where you're trying to take your career and then get the certifications and kind of work backwards, know which one you have to kind of do to like get to each level that you're trying to get to. And then also in the tech space too, I'm looking at like with all the automation going on, it's a lot of low code and no code apps too. Like for developers, like so, and then you can also get certifications in that stuff too. And it's basically like your UX or UI, you're doing drag and drop, like updating buttons. And it's more so if you have to be able to interpret like what the end user wants and be able to display that like in the actual application itself, less than you have to be able to write lines and lines of code and being able to decipher and doing QA and like, being like a full stack developer. So I think that there are like different opportunities for guys out there, like just getting in the tech space, and that you don't want to necessarily be a programmer or like or you don't feel like you have the programming skills, but you can have some of those other skills and take them into the space and be successful.
Yeah, I think that. What do you do for a living? If you don't mind me asking.
I'm a project manager or a product manager at in private equity, but it's like I've been in technology for some years.
Okay, you're in fintech, right?
Yes.
So you're in tech too. So, yeah, those are very good points and very well spoken about it. Gabe says, contributing to ongoing technical projects is a huge way to progress with certs. I bring up the point to say that I know so many individuals who get certs and expect a particular role. And that's what we try to do on here, is to set the expectations correctly. You're not going to come out of the gate with an AWS cert as a solutions architect and think that you're going to get a solutions architect role. That's just not how it works. I know that Microsoft has had a partnership program for years, probably about 25 years now, that allows, if you have a certain number of people within your organizations who are Microsoft certified, then that gives your organization access to Microsoft discounts and things of that nature. So that's what drove certifications in the first place, is that Microsoft partnership program. Everybody's MCSA, MCSP, MCSE, and then MCP, ITP, and stuff like that. That's what drove a lot of Microsoft certifications, is the necessity to get them so that they can actually accrue opportunities to get discounts from Microsoft. And it worked in Microsoft's favor. It actually drove the industry from a certification standpoint. Now, Red Hat does the same exact thing. You got some Red Hat certified engineers on your staff, you have access to some very pertinent information and detail, and as well as discounts within Red Hat. Same thing for IBM. IBM is the same exact way. If you have some IBM certifications, you get to be on the IBM Insider list now. I know the same thing was true for Oracle as well. My nephew actually works for Oracle, so I know this to be true. So certifications have their place, and I don't want people to think that if you get a certification, you should have this sort of expectation. No, you get a certification because it's supposed to be a demonstration of your skill set for the role that you're applying to in the sort of line of business that you're in. And so that's what that comes from. So. Cocaine Kells, how are you? Oh, she's away from the microphone now. Complex design. Are you in a safe area now?
No, I'm still on the road, man. I'm like traveling a little bit, so I was just listening in.
Oh, okay, okay.
How do I sound now?
You sound better.
I do?
Yeah.
Okay, well, if I sound a little bit better, I'll try to. I mean, there were so many points I did want to make, man. I just couldn't because I was, mic was choppy. So.
Are you on your Mara phone?
No. I'm on the other phone at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So, but no, I'll just continue to listen in. I'll try to chime in.
All right. So yeah, that's where we are right now when it comes to certifications. This sort of discussion, set the expectations to be more realistic, and instead of some of these unrealistic expectations that you get this certification, you're going to be this sort of engineer, or you're going to be this sort of architect, and you're going to be this sort of guru or this and stuff like that. No, that stuff comes with tenure, and tenure is important. When I was doing undergrad, what I found was that a lot of BMs would come into the program thinking that, yeah, when I graduate from here, I'm going to be making 150 grand and $100,000, 6 figures, this and that. And these BMs could not even survive 1 or 2 semesters. When I came in, I already had certifications. I already had A+, Network Plus, and things like that. So I was able to skip a lot of courses. And so that helped me get to the next level much quicker, so I can graduate a lot faster. I tried to do a bachelor's in computer engineering and information systems, and you can't do both because these are 2 different sort of tracks. So computer engineering is computer engineering, and information system is completely separate, so you can't do both. Gabe says there needs to be a combination of both, but with stronger emphasis on experience in practical projects. Yeah, no disagreements there. So much discrimination in the IT industry keeps a lot of BMs from actually getting to that point. Unless you have a strong network, social network, to actually have access to some of these opportunities, some of that stuff may not come to fruition for you as a BM. In my experience, I see many BMs come and go, get fired for the most minuscule things that most WMs don't get fired for at all. In fact, they get promoted in some areas. I told a story before about a BM, a WM who was trying to take a server. I think it was like a 3U server or 4U server. And this idiot dropped the server on the floor, a production server, live production server, dropped it on the floor. Very risky. He tried to carry it by himself. Typically in the data center, you carry servers, 1 person on each side to make sure that thing does not drop.
They don't have server racks?
You have server racks, but it has to be lifted, right? You have to lift it to a certain to the top of the rack and slide it in. That means you have to have 2 people sliding that sucker in, and somebody on the back pulling in those cables and plugging it in to make sure that, you know, you
So
get
he tried to slide a blade by himself?
not a blade, a whole entire server, man.
God, why?
Keep in mind for people, let me share my screen so that people can understand what I'm talking about, because we throw around terms and let me share my screen real quick. This is a 5U server. Okay. This person tried to take this server from Iraq, not Iraq, not the country, Iraq, a stationary system that has many other servers in it, and he tried to pull it out himself and carry it to another location, and he dropped it. And it was a production server. The point that I'm making here is he was never reprimanded for this. Now, a BM tried
What
to.
got fired? What got fired?
Well, the BM was carrying a laptop that was going to be decommissioned, meaning that this laptop was already out of warranty and was being replaced anyway. And so he had a couple of laptops in his hand, and he I think he tripped on like the AC cord for it, and the laptop fell over, and someone reported it that hey, this guy this BM dropped the laptop down here. Is anybody going to do something about that? And someone looked into it, and they ended up firing him, man. And unfortunately, it was a dead laptop. They didn't even care. So what I'm saying here is that that's the sort of situations you run into, and that's why some BMs don't have access to some of these opportunities that Gabe is referring to in terms of like practical, practical projects.
And also a lot of times it's favoritism and nepotism that goes into that equation as well,
Mm-hmm.
And also for entry level positions, I think that, we would have to be honest and discussing too, like the HB1 visa and the Genius visas and how that plays a part in the IT sector, especially for entry level positions for a lot of Black males. And just like how, those having those caps set at $60,000 for somebody that can have, a lot of experience from it, and then also be really degreed as well, going up against somebody that just came out of college. I think like that's also a big part of it as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Black Ooh Strikes asks, how much do they typically weigh? He's talking about this 5U server. One of these loaded up with all the hard drives and power supplies and fans and everything else, that thing could weigh it could weigh 100 pounds pretty easily.
Easily 80 to 125. And you're talking about distributed weight that could be above you or below you.
Yeah.
So if you don't know how heavy, or even expecting to know how heavy that is, you can easily drop that thing on the ground. Yeah. Easily.
And it could be dead too. A production server that's dead is no use to anyone. Even under warranty, that the downtime is pretty critical. This one has 4 power supplies in it. That means that this is meant for maximum uptime. These power supplies can be pulled out while it's still running, and just to be swapped out and replaced under warranty. And so, these are pretty old, but the point of the matter here is that's a 5U server. This guy tried to move it out on his own to try to show how good he was, and he was peacocking and almost got peacocked on. So he's real sucker leg. Let me go through the chat real quick. Yeah, Mutual Black says that's one of the questions on the A+. It's common sense to get someone to help you carry something heavy. Absolutely. Q4 is very cynical. He says, when you are a BM at many of these companies, they are looking to put you outside. Yeah.
They are.
Yeah, they're always attacking BMs. Just I don't know what it is that triggers a lot of these managed folk, but they're always gunning for certain guys, man. I used to work with this guy from Iraq who came to this country after 2003, after the invasion, man. He was one of the smart Iraqis who got pushed out of the Baghdad. And what happened to him was very well experienced, spoke 2 languages, Arabic and English, pretty fluently, very well experienced in networking. And what these WMs tried to do to him in the office one day was to pick his brain to see how much he knew about Cisco networking. And they had already Googled all the answers to the questions that they were asking him. So they knew the answers, but they expected him to, to know it off the cuff, on his feet. That's bullshit to me. Excuse my French, but that's BS. You know the answers because you looked the questions up and knew the answers to it, but you expect him to know. And if he doesn't know, he's not that good. That's bullshit. That's some sucker shit, man. I can't stand it. I can't stand it. So I definitely spoke up about that and kind of try to G-check some of these guys, man, because I think it's bullying, man. I think I hate bullies.
Like Mike, this is why I tell people, man, pitch no hitters. These people ain't on your damn team. Don't hang out with these people. You come to work, you do your stuff, you be professional at all times. But these people are looking to knock you out, man. They are looking to knock you off. And they know that most BMs, ain't really got that mouth in check when it comes time to dealing with BS. So when they gang up on you react emotionally and say something, and all of a sudden it comes to your reaction. It's never about what happened. And you be fired and out of there before any meaningful investigation is done by human resources. And at some point in time, human resources could be in on trying to get your ass fired too. Yep. So that's why you got to be able to pitch no hitters while you're at work, man.
Yep, absolutely. And you're right about HR being in on that because they can bring in their specified people that they want from a nepotism standpoint. Dion Alexandra asked, any solutions to remedy these problems being spoken that we can take action on daily? I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to, so if you can add some more detail to your comment, I'd like to hear more about that. Volunteering, Gabe A said, volunteering at your local library for tech assistance, working with a Black church to fulfill their tech needs, providing assistance for local businesses.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, those are just a few opportunities that brothers can volunteer for to get assistance. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Although volunteering at your local library, our libraries don't support that type of stuff. They have their own branch of IT for that type of stuff. So they wouldn't even allow you to run something like that.
I mean, they kind of do for the city and county of Denver, but there ain't nothing wrong with going up there, requesting to talk to the guy and wanting to come in on the weekends when it's real slow and be shown how to do stuff. I used to do that for a lot of places, man.
Yep. That's how I got, not so much that I got my feet wet, but, when I couldn't get into to the enterprise aspect, that's what I was doing, I did a lot of Craigslist stuff back then. Basically, putting my services out there and, traveling maybe 10 to 15 miles at best.
Yeah, I mean, I used to do like work market and all that kind of stuff. I thought that stuff was like extremely hard, but like once it came for actually like changing the data points on like scrolling Mariquis on like billboards and all that kind of stuff, I had no idea how easy that was, man.
Yeah.
No idea.
I think also too, there's some sites like in addition to like working for nonprofits. I know there's a site, I believe it's Angel List, like where you can, if you're a developer, yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that before. We want a black version of that. We want it to be like Tamika's List or something like that.
That'd be dope.
Laquana's List.
Raekwon's list.
It sounds better when it's a female because it's you can kind of put the Aunt Jemima up there or something like that.
Yeah.
And every time you instead of giving them 5 stars, you put yes.
5 yeah.
Dion Alexandra asked a question as far as prejudice in the workspace, because I'm sure a lot of us are aware of the problems. What are some solutions that us BM can act on to look out for ourselves and each other? We talked about this before. Document everything that happens.
Yes, indeed.
Document everything that you don't have to share that with anybody, but document everything that happens. What time was it? Where were you? So on and so forth. Who was it? What's their badge number if you can get it? Where do they sit? Where were you? Most places now they have cameras, and so they can see where you are within the workspace. So if someone says something to you in the kitchen at such time, corporate security can go back and look at that camera and look at that footage. And they'll figure out what was being said, and if it did happen, and there's a high probability that it was recorded, then more than likely they'll be reprimanded. I know I'm not going to mention which company it is that they're not playing anymore. When you sign a contract with these companies now, you may have to turn over your cell phone records.
Yep.
And all your Skype and Slack and things like that. Those messages they can go into your. They have the right to go into your communications to see what was being said. And if they find out that you did say something, or that person did say something hostile to you or about you, that's grounds for them to terminate. See, a lot of these companies want to get rid of these people if they can, because it's costing them millions and millions of dollars with this whole Me Too thing and these lawsuits and whatnot. They don't want to have to deal with these people. They want to get rid of these people as soon as they can. And if they can find some credible evidence to get rid of them, they will do so. I've seen it happen, especially with the Tangerine Tyrant coming into the office around 2016. Once that campaign got rolling, man, they couldn't wait to get rid of some of these people because they started showing their true colors, man. They coming in with MAGA hats and all this crazy stuff. Get these people out of the office immediately.
Hey, Mike, I would also say if somebody's doing documentation, email it to yourself. That way you got a timestamp.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. The other part is to build an alliance, man. Find another black person, more preferably another black man, another BM that can actually, that you can actually vent to. You don't want to end up like Omar Thornton at the Budweiser facility in Connecticut that happened some years ago, where this brother was being harassed on the job by a bunch of WMs. And he went to HR, and HR didn't believe him. They didn't listen to him. They said they ignored him. He came back to work with a pistol, man, and took these guys out. Took himself out. Very unfortunate, but that's what happens when you don't have an alliance. You haven't built any networks. You was network poor. Manager, what's going on?
Yeah, one thing definitely about that that I see kind of coming down the pipe, like for sexual discrimination and racial discrimination, like robots don't discriminate against each other. They don't, sexually harass each other.
Purely off logic programming.
Right. And be that if that's at a McDonald's kiosk that's replacing workers, or if it's at the office building, or if it's in the factory floor line, these robots aren't going to be filing sexual harassment suits against one another or filing racial discrimination claims either. So that's definitely a factor that goes in to management's decision to automate these spaces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good points, brother. Good points. Julian M asked, is it legal to wear body cams at work? It's illegal. You cannot wear those. You can't record any sort of activity that's happening in the corporate office. They tell you that pretty specifically. You sign your application.
But there's nothing wrong with having the footage and then having the audio that goes with it. If you just purely can't have audio by itself.
Yeah, yeah. I know some people use webcams to record people in the on their computer after work. What was happening at one organization I was working at, some people were getting their change dish and their candies and whatnot eating off their desk after work. And they were trying to figure out who was it, and they used their webcam on the computer to actually record to see who was it, and they caught the person. So. Yeah, so there's a lot of effort that goes on, man. In terms of people trying to eat your lunch and stuff like that. A lot of WMs be jealous, man, because you eating some some good stuff, and they got to eat that shepherd's pie. So yeah, but I definitely wouldn't come into the office recording anything, man. At our office, man, it specifically tells you no firearms, no cameras, no recording, no taking pictures, no nothing.
And don't tell people that you're recording conversations either. Don't even brag about it. Don't even say nothing about it. Don't even mention it to anybody ever. You don't know who those people are allied with within that work environment. You have to understand that money will change a lot of minds. And if they can throw you out and just sacrifice you to put themselves in a better position, they're going to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But yeah, to the point about certifications, going back to that and career options, man. Help desk to desktop support, very common transition. I know Gabe spoke about this earlier about going from help desk to security. That's a moonshot in my experience. Most of the organizations I've worked at would never take someone straight from help desk. You have to have some form of years of experience in that. Because they don't want to train people. That's part of the issue. They don't have time to train, especially if it's a mission critical environment. They just don't have time to train people. So they're expecting you to come in there with at least 80% skill set ready, and then the rest of it is just you learning their systems, which is usually about 1 to 2 weeks of training. Even for the role that I'm in right now, I had maybe 2 days of training. That was it, and then I was out on my own. So.
Yeah. Their proprietary stuff obviously ain't going to be covered under any of these certification, but all the other stuff will be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What was I about to say? So yeah, help desk to desktop support to sysadmin and network engineering. The responsibilities at this point are almost one and the same. It's just a matter of whether or not you're siloed in each of these environments. My guy is a network engineer, and so he handles all of the network stack from top to bottom. And I assist him in the security area. So if I see something, I can actually do he actually allows me to do the investigation, and he focuses on what he needs to focus on. That takes time off of his table. So I'm taking tickets out of his queue to perform investigations and come up with remediations and things of that nature, whereas he gets more time to play and sit inside conference calls and stuff like that. So that's kind of how we work. And that's the nature of the environment. You kind of want to be a master at what you do. Don't try to step on anyone else's toes and try to take on network engineering responsibilities and sysadmin responsibilities. If you're going to be a sysadmin, be a full sysadmin. Be the best sysadmin that you can be. Same thing for network engineering, network management, things of that nature. Be the best at that role and those responsibilities that you can be. Stop trying to be, the jack of all trades and spade of none. Let me see. Let's go through the chat. Yeah, Korea Heights makes a good point. If you use your personal cell phone to communicate business related stuff within the federal government, it can be subpoenaed as evidence in an investigation. I think that's the case now for all organizations.
It is. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's been that way since 9/11, though.
Yeah, because the Patriot Act would actually request those phone records. So organizations now give you a separate cell phone. They'll pay for it if they have to. I know with Android, and not even just Android, but MDM, so mobile device management, that allows you to have work responsibilities on your phone, but it's all governed by the organization. So you can't copy an email from work onto your personal email. Just it won't extract out. It's in a locked space, and so that's what that's there for. Before, you would have had a BlackBerry. That would have been the case. You would just have a BlackBerry, and then you have your own personal cell phone. But now they have MDM solutions that allow your personal cell phone to be used for work.
But BlackBerry's got so many people fired, dude.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And what's sad about that is that when the iPhone first came out around 2007, 2008, by 2009, man, there was a big trash barrel full of working BlackBerries because they were getting out of the BlackBerry and moving on to MDM solutions with the iPhone. And then Android came out, and then people started picking up Androids and stuff like that. And then that became a alternative to the iPhone. My point in saying this is that the technology moved so fast that they did not know what to do with all these BlackBerries. They just had this big 50-gallon trash barrel with BlackBerries in it, ready for decommission, even though they had just bought those phones a year and a half ago. Still on the crazy how much money that was lost during that.
They paid like thousands of dollars per phone when they were doing that, and there was nothing but paperweights after like a couple of years. Crazy.
I still have my BlackBerry in my box. Actually, I won't get rid of it because I have such an emotional attachment to it.
I still got my first Motorola Razor for the same reason.
Oh yeah, yeah. I forgot about the razors.
Still got my first iPhone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, the iPhone 4.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
I thought you meant the original from 2007. I was about to say that's crazy. I don't even know if that thing had a camera on it.
I don't think it did.
Yeah. Yeah, Q4 says, ironically, BlackBerry stock is $6.46 right now. Pay attention to BlackBerry stock after next year. It's going to moonshot. You'll probably see that thing hit $30, $35 as they transition into cloud computing and cybersecurity, because that's what they are right now. They're a cybersecurity company as well as a IoT-based company now, Internet of Things. So they don't even deal with phones anymore. They're really involved in the vehicle space now. If you look at a lot of cars that have these interactive displays and whatnot, that's BlackBerry's technology behind it. QNX, QNX is the operating system that drives a lot of that entertainment systems that you see on these cars. And they're also in the healthcare space now, in the digital healthcare space. So you're going to start to see a lot of BlackBerry integration in the next 1 or 2 years from now. So. There is no more BES vision. BES has been gone for years. Yeah, I think BES has been gone since at least 2012. Complex, do you have anything you want to add?
Oh, sorry, man. I'm still out and about. So I accidentally unmuted.
All right, man. Yeah, so let me share my screen right real quick. And this was sent to me by Ijisa, Austin Community College, continuing education, Oracle certification. The program costs $5,494, 9 to 10 months of commitment, 6 hours a week. Now, can you take something like this and become a DBA? That depends. That depends. I don't think you'll be a database administrator, but I think you'll probably work on the junior side. Now, what that means is that you won't be taking on all of the supervisory and management of a system. No one is going to trust you with their system like that. That's just the reality. I mean, MOT is not going to give somebody the keys to a big rig. He hasn't seen them do anything in terms of driving performance. Doesn't have a driving record. Doesn't know what their record is. Doesn't even know if they have a CDL or not. He has to go through the background check to make sure that some of these employees or potential employees are actually viable for work. You have to think about it from that perspective. Good. What happens?
Hey, Mike.
Yes, sir.
No, I was going to say, I'm looking at this, and this reminds me of how I went to networking school. I went some kind of like little weekend program. I did it for like 6 to 8 months to get Windows NT certified. Mm-hmm. But reality, what they really taught me was how to pass the test.
You went to a boot camp?
I went to a boot camp, absolutely.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And that, granted, it was a long boot camp, but looking back, I didn't get any real practical experience when it came to actually, doing the actual job. The things I really learned was going back to when I was at the hospital, I would go down and volunteer in the IT department, and they gave me like little servers to take home and work with. And I would come down there when I wasn't busy over an X-ray, and they would show me things. And that's why I learned all my real stuff versus the actual boot camp.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point, because the boot camp is meant to get you certified, whereas the community college or the academic level is actually trying to teach you the knowledge aspect, right? It's trying to teach you the practical application, depending on what kind of community colleges you're attending. And I think it's something like this. It looks like they're just getting you acclimated with database administration, but not actually have you fully immersed in the technology itself. This is fine for somebody who has a technical background and trying to transition from one role to another. If you don't have a technical background, this isn't going to make any sense to you. Not discouraging anybody. I think it looks like a decent program, but I would never tell a person who's at Piggly Wiggly, stop, put that shopping carriage, back in this section and come take this program. That's just not how it works. At least not for me. This is somewhat at the mid-level. This is at the mid-level. This is not the entry level. I mean, although it says introduction to SQL, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's all entry level. The introduction is to get you acclimated with the technology, not to actually hold your hand all the way. Once you get beyond that introduction, it's all up to you on how you absorb the classes. There's another one here as well. This is the AWS one from the same college, and it says AWS Solutions Architect Associate. Okay. The problem here is that this is a part of a bigger program, and I believe this is probably part of a network engineering program from what it looks like. And the idea that you could take this class and become a AWS architect, solutions architect, not going to happen. That's unrealistic and a waste of money for you. Time commitment is 8 weeks and 8 hours a week. Even if that was the case, it's not realistic to expect that you're going to become AWS. You're going to be working for Amazon. It's not going to happen. Amazon will look at you and or maybe look at your application and bounce it, put it into a black hole. Now the career information says, oh, well, you can make $58.19 an hour. Yeah, that would be true if you actually knew what you were doing, but this one class is not going to get you acclimated with all that stuff. There's so many services inside AWS, man. I just can't count. Everybody loses count of it. There's probably over 100 services within AWS. It's too much. They come out with a new service every single week or every other week. You can't keep up with that type of stuff. Yeah, so I don't recommend something like that. I think that if you haven't worked in IT before, I think you should start from the beginning. You got to get the principles down right. You got to get, CS 101 down right. This other one is about information security. It does go over CompTIA Security Plus. The tuition is up to $2,000, and the time commitment varies. I think you can learn a lot of this on your own if you just buy the book. And the information security courses are all based on everything that I've told you guys in the past. I've given out many of the links to this certification.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, we need to go over like the four kind of stages of IT learning. I mean, school is one thing, on-the-job training is another thing. What you do in your spare time, looking at videos and how things are solved, that's kind of another aspect to it. And mentoring is like the fourth aspect to it. So no matter what, you still don't have to be doing a lot of work, no matter what you go to school for or what you're being mentored in the direction of. And I don't think people understand the time commitment that it takes to even try to position yourself in a couple of years to try to even get a position like that. That's how dedicated you have to be to this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good point. Dave in the chat says those for-profit schools are slimy. Yes,
they are.
Yeah, some of them are. Some of them are slimy. They get you in there, and what happens here, and I talked to several people last year about this because they went into a boot camp and they had no idea what they were getting themselves into. And what happened was the instructor was going so fast, they couldn't keep up because it's a boot camp. They're jamming everything into your brain in such a short span of time. This person was still on chapter 1, chapter 2. They already moved on to chapter 6, chapter 7. It's already a loss. It's already a wash at that point. The purpose of a boot camp is to cram you for an exam. That's all it's really designed for, from a certification standpoint. From a skill standpoint, it's just not feasible to learn that much information in such a short amount of time. Your brain can only absorb so much information at a time. That's why I tell people 90 minutes of studying is sufficient for an adult. You trying to do 4 hours of studying, I can almost guarantee you're going to bust your brain open.
Yeah, I mean, they got this idea from like accounting boot camps. Like that's who started this trend like a long time ago. And those people actually did go in and get, certified being an accountant. They just moved it over to IT. They know damn well most of these people can't get all that information within that period of time, having people reading off PowerPoint presentations, click, reading a million miles. There ain't no way in the world you can be able to do anything but pass an exam. There's no way that's going to be able to prepare you to actually be a competent person learning a such thing in an environment. Mm-hmm. That's why I like schools like Sub-Zero 3639. He does like a really good academy for IT because it's paced to give you realistic expectations and results. versus like a boot camp that can cost you like 10 times more than that, where you get even less out of it than what Sub-Zero 3639 teaches.
Right.
And he's actually giving you information because he makes money in the field, and he actually cares about you actually taking this information and doing something with it. Most of these boot camp places, they don't give a damn about nothing about when are they gonna get their money. That's it. They don't care about nothing else. No
Right.
results, no nothing.
Right. It's a factory. It's a factory. It's all GMO. It's all processed stuff, man. And it's not good for your mental diet, because some of the people I spoke to last year, they got into one of these boot camps and got blown away, and they basically flaked out of it because it was going too fast, and they were too embarrassed to actually raise their hand and say, "Hey, I need some help." And so they wasted a lot of time, wasted a lot of money. I think they probably spent like $5,000 on a boot camp and kind of flamed out.
But they know it's targeted toward people who have this magical ass level of thinking when it comes to money. They think they're gonna pay $5,000 and they're gonna leave from being somebody who's a manager at Burger King and thinking they're gonna be a fucking system architect out of that shit. That's what this shit's actually here to target people like that, who are things need to be tightly controlled by the government, and the government should be putting on this show at a reasonable pace because they're gonna be getting the money back in tax benefits. You shouldn't be allowing companies to come up, boot camp, and brain bust motherfuckers into shit. It don't work. It doesn't work.
Yeah, it's worse than a lap dance, man. Because you ain't getting nothing out of it, man. You bust off real quick. So,
And I gotta say, man, a lot of these advisors, they some real slick talkers. I mean, they will talk these kids into one thing, and they'll even talk the parents into it, not really understanding how this stuff actually works. I mean, I really appreciate you going through this, looking at this actual program and putting this kind of information out there.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I mean, because here's the validity of the product. What are the satisfied graduates, and what is the percentage of graduates who find a job after the training or not? Like, a lot of these for-profit schools was getting away with using the term job placement assistance in quotes. They really wasn't really finding people a job in the field that they went to school in. They just tracked the simple fact that they had a better job than what they had before they went to school, and they was counting that as results. So you got to be real understanding about the outcome of what you're learning, not just learning just to be learning. Because a lot of people didn't know that they could transfer their credits to other schools because the schools wasn't regionally or nationally accredited and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into trying to learn this information and thinking that you're taking shortcuts when it turns out that shit could be a long cut.
Mm-hmm. Good point, man. This one is about Java. This one is from the same school, Java development, and it says that it's the estimated tuition is around $6,000, and it's your building blocks of success. Pour me a cup of it. Yeah, cool, right?
Yep. There you go. There you go with that marketing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Prerequisites, man. Intro to programming languages. Intro to World Wide Web authoring. So you got to take these courses before you even get to that point. And then you got to go through the Java courses after that. Java Programming 1, 2, and 3. Enterprise Edition. Java Web Development Fundamentals. Capstone is after that, man. And then you got to do SE8 programming, the exam prep. Just the prep. And then you got to go do an internship. Java internship. It sounds cool, but if you can't get, if you haven't taken the prerequisites already, man, it's not even going to be worth it. Because you don't even know what you're getting yourself into. Java is not some easy language to learn, man. It's a very complex language. Not a bad language.
It continuously changes, man.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't be doing stuff like that. And because it's programming, it requires a lot of screen time and a lot of dedication. You need somebody looking over your shoulder to correct your mistakes in coding. I'm sad to say that they don't have real. I don't think they have a lab environment that allows you to write code and then it corrects your code if it's wrong. They correct the syntax if it's wrong. That's all trial by error, man. Time to commit 7 to 10 months, 5 to 8 hours a week plus internship, $50 an hour for as an average income with experience.
You see what they're doing?
Yeah.
Telling you about the outcome, but not being realistic about the input to get the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Because I guarantee you, less than 2, 3, or 5% of these people, which with all programs, not that you shouldn't try, it's like I said, there's 4 facets to learning this shit. Going to school and getting a mentor is only one facet. You still got to be doing this stuff in your private life. You still got to be doing a whole bunch of stuff in order for this stuff to work.
Yeah, this is for working adults. That's a good point. So for working adults, and it, hit up Marcella. Marcella will help you out. She'll get that work for you. See, this is like the this is like the AMS version of IT, man.
Yeah. But as soon as you start getting toward criticizing some people's heroes who've been spouting the same stuff everybody else spouts, like, they just start to get up and go. I'm like, wasted a whole bunch of my life watching these videos. You can't criticize them. I'm like, okay.
Yes. They're hoping that with these programs, man, that you become select in the IT field, and it doesn't really work like that. It's a sad case, man. And the thing is, a lot of Black people get sucked into these programs, thinking that
emotional based thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, they think they can cheat their way to the top, and it's like, no, man. They're selling you a fantasy, man. It's like those phone sex operators, man, chick pouring water into a bucket or something like that, talking about them peeing, man. Like, no, that's not real. It's fantasy. I got that from Girl 6, in case it's some of you all trying to figure out where that came from. You ever seen the movie Girl 6 by Spike Lee, man? It's an interesting movie.
Dude, I was just about to say, did you just fucking make a Girl 6 reference?
It's a funny ass movie, man. But yeah, that's the point that I'm making. The last one right here is the Oracle certification. So yeah, this is the same thing. So possibly $44 an hour, $5,000 tuition, 9 to 10 months, 6 hours a week of commitment. Hit up Maria. She got that work for you.
Trust me, if they could turn out people who actually got those type of jobs, that stuff will be costing 10 times as much as that.
Mm-hmm.
If they actually had that kind of value. But most of this boot camp stuff you can find out online. All you have to do is find out the outline. And you can research this stuff all on your own, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I think the power of the internet has changed, man. Especially with free code camp or whatever that is, man. You can go there and get some stuff too. I'm a traditionalist. I like the physical book, so I'm all about putting my head into the physical book and reading. I know some people are visual learners. I'm a visual learner myself, so I do watch a lot of videos. I need to see something get done first before I can actually do it.
Visual learner.
Yeah. Gabe brings up a point that the most emphasized items on the page are the tuition costs, the time of commitment, and the income.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll notice.
Dave, you see that too?
Yeah, all the words are small. You have to kind of squint your eyes to read it. But big, bold letters, What they do with these programs is they target a lot of vets because they know that vets
the government pays for that stuff. Yeah.
That GI Bill money.
Yep, and that's why you have these tuition inflation costs. There should be a standardized set of tuition
period.
costs. Yeah,
in the
across
country,
the board.
Based on where you live at.
Yeah.
It's kind of like there's a median income
Mhm.
for that area. The tuition should be based on the median income of the area. It shouldn't be something that's wild and stupid.
Yeah.
Because it's ridiculous.
But that's why they set it up like this. Is they're going after the vets, man. You had a lot of guys who went into Iraq and they came home. They were bored. They probably didn't have anything else to do if they weren't suffering from PTSD, hidden injuries, and said, "Hey, why don't you don't you come in here and spend your time in here? We can get you certified in Oracle or something like that in Java. Get this guy.
Veterans high priority or vets only program or use your GI Bill money here. I'm like, all they're saying is like, they're just trying to warm you up, man. Trying to take your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta be watching these people.
Yep. Before you know it, man, you're in the back of a big rig, man, with your pants around your ankles. You got your wallet. Left you up in there.
Hey, Mike.
Who's this?
E.
Oh, what's going on, E? Put some volume on your mic, please, brother. Please.
Put some what?
Put some volume on it.
I apologize.
Well, or else, you could put some respect on that mic.
But yeah, that's the these programs, right? They're trying to suck people in. So don't get caught up trying to take shortcuts in IT. I'm not an advocate of that. I think you should play it safe. Work at your own pace is my thing. Don't try to get caught up in the boot camp where they say, "Oh, you're going to do this in 6 weeks and you'll be making $58 an hour." You're going to walk out of there. You're going to be more confused as you come out than what you were when you came in. Not worth it. Stick to the basics. A+, all those intro to computer science, things like that. Try to get the fundamentals down. If you don't understand the fundamentals, you're not going to be any good anywhere else outside of that.
I can attest to the boot camps. Don't do it.
This is stuff you can do in your own time before you even try to hop out there like that. This stuff got to be your interest, man. If this is going to be your future, it has to be your interest in your private life.
Exactly, MOT. What's up, guys? How y'all doing?
Wody is back. What's going on, man?
Oh, what's good, man? Yeah, let's get this bag out here. You know what I'm saying? But nah, I definitely agree with what y'all was saying. And I apologize. I missed when y'all started. I was putting out some fires, but nah, I definitely agree. Don't fall for these little boot camps. I think I said it before. A lot of times they just trying to get you in, and you not knowing that a lot of times in the fine print, they need you to know certain things before you actually get into the boot camp, because it's very fast paced, and if you don't have a basic understanding, just like what y'all said, and I'm sorry I'm repeating the same thing, but if you don't have the basics down, you're gonna be more lost than when you spent that $5,000 to get into this boot camp, or whatever, $2,000 to get into this boot camp, and you're gonna be more confused. So just be mindful, like he's saying. It's a lot of resources out there. YouTube, for instance, we're all on YouTube. There's a lot of people out there making videos on different technologies and how to actually get into it the right way, as well as all the basic information is really out there available for free.
Yep.
So
yeah, and also look at your local library, because I know Google had a partnership with some of these urban Black areas for G Suite and Chrome development and stuff like that, and you get a free Chromebook at the end of the 2-week program, 3-week program. I know they run it every month or so, in a lot of these areas. Let me see if I can find it. Who else is on the panel? Yo, what's good with it, E? You put some volume on your mic yet, bro?
But no, I'm on my phone. I don't think I'm able to do it, so I'm gonna do it in the chat probably.
All right, we got a phone number too. Let me put it in the chat. if you want to call in. Let me see. Going through the chat, but let me pull up this record. Oh, here we go, right here. All right. This is the Google IT Support Professional Certificate. So this is for entry-level people. I think most libraries should have it available, but you could also take it on Google site. And let me read it off. The IT Support Professional Certificate developed by Google and hosted on Coursera can help you become ready for an entry-level job in IT support in under 6 months. No experience is necessary. This is very true. This is one of the legitimate programs, and I think Google did a good job with this. So I would definitely start with this if you have no experience at all. And it's actually credible because it's coming from Google. And they have other certifications that get done too, like G Suite and stuff like that. And so,
could you imagine having access to something like this in like in the 9th grade or 8th grade or 6th grade?
mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let me drop that in the chat. Yeah, so here we go. In the chat for you guys. I know they were doing it at public libraries before. Let me see.
Yeah, Google certifications carry weight. It's why I've mentioned it as a entrepreneurial vehicle as it relates to IT and tech, because Google certifications can be acquired on your own. It doesn't require that you like go to some institution or anything like that. And
Chose initiative, man.
Right. Not only that, but they have certifications for pretty much just about every line of business that they have. So we're talking about their cloud platform, Android.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got to realize too, who has a majority of the smartphone market share? Android. You see, so getting started, you would be certifying yourself in venues and in areas where there's a high adaptation for the technology. So you got to kind of look at what's around you. Things like Red Hat, being certified in like Red Hat Linux and stuff like that. Again, these are like open source free platforms where there's a multitude of sources. We've provided a whole bunch, and we'll continue to provide more. But the bar's been lowered in a lot of ways. And I think one area that we should also look at is as acquiring certifications, particularly from Google products, because again, those certifications they'll carry on with you into other business venues. And you can base your own business off of those certifications. So you get certified in all those, and then you have your own startup, and you're using Google's technology as a platform for it.
Yep. Can't go wrong with it, man.
So much stuff they got there, man. We never had no access to.
Man, you had to get one of those big ass MCSE Bibles or something like that. Cisco Bibles.
Unabridged dictionary, man. That shit was huge.
Yeah, you can hold a couch with it, man. So
yeah, when it comes to like focusing, trying to do memory and things like that, you need I think like pills and stuff like that, enhancements. But you wouldn't recommend brothers do stuff like that.
Repeat that one more time so I can catch it.
Comes to because I try to focus in school right now, trying to do EMT, and I was wondering if you recommend any pills to like the focus or to keep the concentration, because it's kind of like a long class.
Yeah, I couldn't recommend anything like that, man, other than coffee.
Coffee. All right.
That's the only thing I can really figure out. Maybe a good night's sleep.
All right, I'll do that too.
Yeah, that might help, man. I don't recommend Adderall or any other things, man. I can't.
All right, bro.
Yeah. Let me see, because I know Mugen was Mugen was looking at some stuff as well. When he came in last night, he's talking about getting a security clearance and having a security plus. Yeah, I wouldn't just stop at security plus, man. I would be looking at CCNA and things or CCENT, one of the two.
And, you got to start with this bare minimalism, man. I got to get in the damn field. Stop trying to get your feet wet and hopefully somebody notices you, man. Y'all got to stop with that.
Yeah, because that's one thing about it is competitive. And so you do have to just keep working on your skills and getting them up. You know what I'm saying? Don't just I got the security plus, I'm good. Nah, that's not the end all be all. You gotta keep working on, and it also depends on what area you're trying to go into. So Mike talks about, cloud. Before that, you need to understand server. So server plus, the Linux plus cloud, and then cloud plus. I'm just saying in kind of in that order, so you understand the server aspect before you actually get to the cloud part. So
yeah, that's a good point, man. Let me bring up some of these certifications that I was going to actually talk about. Let me see. Here we go, right here. Share my screen real quick. Yeah, this is from Cisco. This got sent to me. I don't know, maybe some of the other guys might have received it as well, but all the new certifications they're talking about, new exams, registration starts now. Now available, you can reserve your seat for the new certification exams available on February 24th, 2020. CCNA specialist, CCNP, CCIE, Cisco certified DevNet associate, that's new. DevNet specialist, that's new. DevNet professional, that's new. Let's see. New CCNA study group. So they have it all broken out now. So at the entry level, it's CCT, and then at the associate level, it's CCNA, CCNA Cyber Ops, and then at the professional level, it's CCNP Enterprise, CCNP Collaboration, CCNP Data Center, CCNP Security. Yeah, that's what they're talking about right now. So let me drop that in the chat for people who are curious about that.
You gotta have it.
Let me get
endorsement.
all right. Oh, they have the CCNA prep bundle. So let me make sure I share my screen on that, because I think a lot of people are going to be interested in this.
When you talk about programming, when it comes to teaching, will it help you like create apps, or are we talking about just general, just programming?
When did I say that?
No, I'm just asking you, for all these classes, are these like medical, or these can be applied anywhere?
Most of it is geared at IT. So
Okay.
IT is the same across the board. It's a general practice, but and from a programming standpoint, applications are something that's usually built in tangent with other things. So it's never just you write some code, then it's done. Then you have a UX developer, a UI developer. UI means user interface. UX means user experience. So there's a whole lot of other players involved in terms of building an application. You're never just building it on your own. You're always a part of a team. So it's never really expected for you to do all of it. But this one right here is from the same site, Cisco. They discounted. It looks like they discounted the bundle, the preparation bundle, for $884.25, eligible for Cisco Learning Credit redemption.
It's way easier than a boot camp, way more reasonable than a boot camp. So if you're trying to boot camp your way into stuff without even knowing this other stuff exists, it can really sour you on IT, period, man.
Yeah, so it gives you video training, it's self-paced, and it gives you labs as well. Let me click on that.
Still a certification too.
And it has all the practice questions. You can't go wrong with this. If you pass this, that $884 is a fraction of what you make when you become a Cisco, when you become a network analyst. A network analyst probably anywhere between 45 to 55 grand a year. $884 is a drop in the bucket. It's a return on investment. So
it's about knowing where to look and what appropriate training to get versus just jumping out there and taking anybody's advice who's promising you $50 and $60 an hour.
Yeah, so the first day to test for this exam is February 24th, 2020. I think you can do a lot. I think you can do a lot of the studying and whatnot. To cram for this exam, I think you can do this in about 3 months, tops. I've seen people do it in 30 days, but those are people who are very, very hyper in terms of their ability to absorb information. I think if you did with all the labbing and video training and stuff like that, there's probably about 100 hours of training on there, video training, and then you got to read the books and whatnot. I think you can do that in 3 months at best, depending on your level of understanding the networking aspect. If you don't understand networking, you have to go all the way back to the basics of Network Plus. That's the only way you're going to really understand it. Network Plus is the primer for your CCNA or your CCENT. Before, back in the day, what they used to do is allow you to take the Network Plus in combination with the CCNA, and that would get you certified. But now they don't do that anymore. Same thing with Microsoft. They used to have you get the A+, and then you take a Microsoft certification, then you became Microsoft certified. Now it's not like that. So let me drop this in the chat. Oh man. Right. Oh, I put the link in the description beneath the video because it exceeds the character limit on the chat, so it's in there. Vision asks a question. What is a good way to get CBT nuggets or Cisco simulator shooting off the dome so don't remember everything? Practice, like Christian is saying in the chat, lab, and lab. So you got to keep practicing till you get it right, until you can do it repetitively. Yeah.
Yeah, you can always find people selling their, and I'm sorry, Mike. I know if you was gonna say something, but
No,
I just wanted to
go ahead.
add this.
Go ahead.
Yeah, they always have people out here selling older Cisco equipment that you can purchase for a very low price to practice on. I wanted to do that when I was in the networking space, when I was trying to get into Cisco and all that stuff, until I got kind of diverted to database. But there's always people out there selling this hardware that you can set up at your house. I know it's a little bit older. Yeah, and yeah, Mike is showing exactly what I'm talking about. But you can check Craigslist, you can check eBay, all the stuff he's finna show you guys. You can get it and set it up at your house and practice lab every day, like y'all said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is what Josh is talking about. This is a training rack. I used to have these. I used to have this. I don't know what I did with it. I think I got rid of it after a while. It was too loud for me. You got to put some earplugs in. But so this has the two switches. You got the two routers for WAN to WAN connection, and then you have a concentrator on the inside. I think that's a concentrator. These look like 2600s right here. And basically, your laptop would act as a client for the lab and test. I know some people use VMware to virtualize, the two clients and whatnot, but from a traditional standpoint, it's nothing wrong with having two different laptops acting as client A and client B. And so what happens here is in this this setup, you got one network to the second network. So network one and network two that goes through the switch and then comes back around. I don't know what this one is. It might be for voice. Let me see. Let me see. Oh, here it is right here. Yep, two 2600 routers, some switches, so 2950 switches. It doesn't say what the other one is. Oh, okay, it's actually another router. So it looks like a more recent router that they have. Yep, and it comes with all the software, it comes with all the cables. It's basically a ready to run kit. This is what you would use to demonstrate, what's his brother's name? Johnny Blaze. This is what you would use on your portfolio. It would actually add that to your portfolio to show that you can demonstrate all your skills and whatnot. If you could put something like this together and build it out, that becomes very critical. Because they want to leave you with the equipment, but they also don't want you to damage it. They don't want you bringing down their network. I had made a blunder early in my career working on a Cisco firewall, and I was updating the firmware on it, and I updated the firmware, but the router, the firewall was so old. It was an ASA firewall. It was so old. When I loaded the firmware up on there, it wouldn't reboot. So we had to have somebody remotely kick the firewall back up physically, so that it can finish the process of updating the firmware. Very scary, because I updated the secondary firewall rather than the primary first. So if it failed, it was going to fail in the secondary, not in the primary. So I was fortunate enough not to bring down the network.
One of the guys I work with, he did something kind of stupid. Yeah, he rewired all of our PAX equipment down in the department. He didn't like how it was set up. But he didn't realize that the hospital was using port security.
Oh man, shy away from the
Yeah.
transformers on the street. What's going on?
What's going on with that Waikiki wireless, man?
Uh-oh, that sound bad again.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. It might be your iPhone.
Autobots
Yeah.
attack. I mean, that's what it sounds like.
I was far from the router. How's this?
No, that's still
Yeah.
This any better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, it's my Bluetooth headset. No, I was saying one of the guys I work with, he decided to reroute the equipment in our X-ray department, all the computers, but he didn't realize that we had port security. So the next morning we come to work, nothing's working.
Wow.
And the IT guys come down there and they look at what he did, and I swear, like, them guys want to throw him into a closet and just beat the crap out of him.
Yeah, it happens, man. It does happen. I like hardware, man. I'm a big hardware person. I used to have this type of stuff, man, back in the day. Yeah, I used to have all this type of stuff, man. But the fact that they got the phones with it, man, that makes it even more butterly. So yeah, this is for a CCNA voice. You can't go wrong with this. I think these are just good investments, and I could be wrong about this, but I think these are just good investments to lab off of these. So, especially you come into a corporate office, that's exactly what they're using. Especially the government. The government uses Cisco.
Like, are you retired?
Am I retired?
Yeah.
Or am I retarded? Which one is that?
What?
Which one is your question? Am I retired or am I retarded?
Retired. Retired.
No, I got you, man. No, I'm not retired, man. I'm too young for retirement.
Oh, okay. I know. I thought you was like, you out of it now. So I thought you were retired.
I'm not in this sector. I'm not in the networking sector. I used to be in the data center. I'm not in there anymore.
And just to add to this, Mike, as well. Just like you looked up this Cisco equipment, they got, and I know they loud and everything, but you can get those Dell Blaze servers as well. And a lot of them still have good hardware in them where you can virtualize and create your own network at the house. I mean, I have a server at the house where I have virtual systems on it that I just play around and test with. You can set up a whole Windows network on one of these servers just by virtualizing. You can using like Proxmox. They have different applications out here to virtualize a whole network with servers and all that stuff, web servers. If you're trying to get into development, you can set up your own SQL server so you can understand how to do that, figure out the clustering and all that stuff. And it's like $200-$300 and you can get a server and you can do all that stuff on it. So Just throwing it out there.
The thing is, you can actually spin up your own servers in Azure now, right? So you really don't necessarily need that. But I get your point though, is to have the physical equipment is actually pretty. It makes it more applicable to your training, right? Because you get to see it physically.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but I stress, man. I think anybody who's trying to get into network administration, network engineering, you gotta have this type of stuff on hand, man. You gotta see it firsthand. To me, that's the best way to train into lab. Is to lab off of real equipment. You can probably do packet tracer or something like that. That's cool and all, but man, having these things in your face and
At home,
yeah,
tell you, man, can't beat it. Can't beat it.
Yeah, having the real thing in your face, man, it's just there's no replacement for the real thing. No replacement for the real thing, man. I'd rather have this type of stuff. If I had the the bandwidth and whatnot from electricity standpoint to run all this type of equipment at home, man. Man, back in the day, man, I used to have a server rack. I used to have the 4Us and the 2Us and all that stuff up in there, man. That stuff started getting expensive from a electricity standpoint. But it's just one of those things, man. That's how you get better. Is to mess up the real equipment at home, because when you go into in the workplace, like when I was doing this before, man, I saw some a switch or something like that was down at one point, and I just happened to walk by and saw the orange light flashing or something like that, and I was like, let me go back and log into to see what's going on. And the IT managers were very impressed by that. They were like, how did you know that? Like, oh yeah, and it wasn't even my job. I was just actually happened to walk by, saw the warning light flashing. I think something was wrong with it. I was like, let's log into this and let's look at this. And it's like, okay, show this command, run that command. And they were impressed by that. So it wasn't even my job. So I solved issues for organizations without even being part of their team. At the time, I was working for a different team. So yeah, let me drop this in the chat, because I think that some people might really might be interested in this type of stuff. You can usually look at the vendor or the seller, look at their reputation, 100% positive feedback. Can't really find any faults with it. I mean, do they warranty it? Let's check. 60 days warranty. So as soon as you get the equipment, fire it up, see if all if the OS boots up to full functioning state. Check all of that stuff. Make sure that you can verify the operating system. And if everything works as it says it should, you're good to go, man. Sometimes you may run into fan issues. And so, especially with the 2600s, the 2900 series switches, the fans do go become faulty on them, and they'll run in a beep error, and that can become kind of annoying. But if it's in the basement or something like that, or in the attic, it probably doesn't matter. They do get hot after a while and pretty noisy, so I wouldn't run them, for more than a couple hours. So let me drop that in the chat. I have no affiliation with this vendor, this reseller. So you're buying at your own risk. I don't get any kickbacks for it. Yeah, I need to stop looking at this type of stuff before I end up spending some money.
Soundwave's back, man.
Yeah,
Soundwave's back.
Yeah, I think Bluetooth might be messed up again, man.
Dude, it's the Bluetooth headset. You gotta get another one. At least for when we've been on this platform, because it sounds the robotic stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it might just be an issue between Zoom and his headset, not so much that. I think.
Zoom, I guarantee you, it works everywhere else. I guarantee you that. Otherwise, you wouldn't have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm back. It's the headset.
Is it charged up? I think that usually does that when you have a low battery.
I charged it up last night, but every now and then I notice when I talk to people, it does go out. So I'm just gonna stop using it.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
The headset, the headset that I use is a Sennheiser Presence. If you ever need to replace that headset.
Hey, this is a little cheap one. I got in one of these airports last year. So.
Oh yeah, they got you. They got you good, man.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, man, stay away from that egghead.com.
Oh no, man.
I get direct.
They came out with good stuff, and then like once they do what everybody else do, they get a good manufacturer, and in order to shave a couple points after they didn't got their name up, they just don't even care because they got so much money rolling in that they don't give a damn. It's crazy. Happens.
I mean, I spent a lot of money on egghead. I used to buy those old machines to learn how to fix those.
Yeah, yeah.
He said
all that,
machines,
and they
machines. You know,
Gateway computers.
Yeah, I'm surprised he doesn't have a Tandy, man. Surprised he doesn't have a TI-86 calculator.
Hey, my very first computer was a Texas Instruments. Was it a TI?
No.
Oh yeah, I had the tape recorder because I couldn't afford the disk drive.
Oh man.
Tape recorder because he couldn't afford the disk drive. You know that's old school. That was around the the Reagan administration.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that was like 84, 85.
Man.
Yeah, the Tandy would have been an upgrade.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
This is crazy. This is another big lab. This is for the CCNP. You really can't go wrong with this, man. Man, I need to stop looking at the stuff where I end up, spending some money. But yeah, this is the big boy stuff. This is what you go for your CCNP. I know, like Gabe is saying, you can use a virtualized switching router. That's cool, but I can't, man. I've had both, man. The real deal is the real deal, man, for a reason. It's the difference between driving a simulator game, with or Gran Turismo or something like that, and actually getting inside of a physical car and doing drifting.
At least you ain't got to worry about insurance costs.
Yeah.
Kevin Hart.
Yeah, that's why you see sometimes on YouTube, man, guys be like, "Oh yeah, I drove a Porsche 911 or something." Really? But you look at the video, it's just a simulation from the game or something. Fucking clown. Let me drop this in the chat too. I think some people will benefit from some of these hardware equipment. You can never go wrong with it. It fails, but it fails in your jurisdiction. It doesn't fail on the job where it can be compliant. Let me see if I can. How do I share this? How do I share this? Oh, here we go, right here.
Hey, Michael, MOT, do either one of you guys do anything or know anybody who deals with 3D printing?
I
can get them pretty cheap. Other than that,
you can talk to Lowcast on YouTube. He has a channel, Lowcast. He does.
Yeah, LOADKAST.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. He usually comes around here. He has been around a while. He builds his own 3D printers and stuff like that, so he's involved in it.
All right, appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yeah, let me put this in the description. We the video. Again, you guys can click on that.
Hey, MOT, I'm gonna hit you up about a 3D printer, man. You put yourself out there, man. I've been wanting to get one of those things, man. Yeah.
Depends on what
Nah,
you're trying.
man. Yeah.
If you can, you know.
Yeah, because I want to get one because I want to do like some customized stuff that I know that people ain't doing for like clothing and all that kind of stuff. But I've seen like an opportunity to do like a whole bunch of stuff like that for like statues and just all kinds of stuff that you can do with that, man. Like I'm not artistically inclined, but I do know artistically inclined stuff that people would buy based on that type of concept. And especially if you go in a place like the South where nobody even have anything like that or even have the ability to get anything like that, you can charge some pretty good money for doing that type of stuff. So.
Yeah, Ijisa, my brother, he asked the question. Can you give me your opinion on the links later? We went over that earlier, bro. We did that at the beginning of the live stream.
What do you say?
He's asking about the the Oracle, Java, those community college programs. Yeah,
okay, yeah.
Went over that earlier. So make sure you watch the replay.
That's a great thing, man. We provide receipts and look up stuff.
Yeah. Oh, let me bring on complex design and let me answer. What's going on?
Yeah, circling back to the certifications that we were kind of going through. I think one general overarching thing that I'm seeing is the fact that, and I know everybody knows, it's like we're in a capitalist society and everything is being monetized, including like education. Like, so some of those, outrageous boot camps that we saw, all the way down to like, the actual Cisco certifications, like you have to do the footwork and like the background, basic like knowledge gathering when it comes to, going into be it like IT certifications or like, going into getting your 4-year degree or your graduate degree. Like you have to really kind of look at like what you're getting, like look at the program, look at the output of the students, look at where you're trying to go with your career, and then kind of like have all that in perspective before you make that decision. Yeah.
No doubt, man. No doubt. Because a lot of people get hustled into thinking that they about to put in the minimal effort and get $50 an hour right after they get out of their school. And since they don't know how to evaluate information, they know people's brain work off Occam's razor. So, they really get hustled into doing stuff and then they get soured on the field and they have to realize they really don't know stuff. They have to start all the way over, realistically start over. And by that time, most people are out with your money, man.
Right.
I just don't want people going through that because it does happen a lot. And this is why you have people afterwards who come around and say, oh, there ain't no jobs in IT. I went through this boot camp and stop right there. You went through a boot camp.
Right. And if they could sell you snake oil, they will. If they could sell you fool's gold, they'll sell it to you, or if they could sell you reverse, mortgages, they'll sell it to you, or arm mortgages, adjustable rate stuff, they'll sell it to you. So
Or select mail, your stuff, select
exactly.
mail, body lotion,
Payday loans, all that stuff, they'll sell it to you. This is a capitalist society, including education, and you have to be educated about how you go and equip yourself for the modern like workforce, I think.
Yeah, but I think after about 2008 or something like that, man, I think maybe 2010, man, people started blacklisting a lot of these schools. They started getting these bad reputations, on like Yelp and Angie's List or whatever it is that that they may have been listed on, and they get these 1-star reviews and stuff like that. So
the rise of that type of commentary is like, dude, people don't even know how big Yelp and like Angie's List is and the ability to report fraud. And it's like we need to have greater and overwhelming punishment for people who commit fraud, because they really get away with it nearly 100% of the time, because most of the people are in dire straits and there's really no government organization that goes after people who commits fraud. And it's really kind of hard to prosecute because they try to relegate you to suing a small claims court versus actually just charging the person outright and doing that. I'm not sure why that's not a push anywhere, because a lot of people get hustled on Craigslist. A lot of people get hustled on these online things. And that's really like, I mean, it's just no wild, wild west.
Right.
You got, yeah, it's crazy.
Well, the thing about the IT sector, man, is that if those boot camps and any one of those training facilities get a bad reputation, man, their enrollment will drop.
Right now.
Yeah.
Right now they'll drop.
Because you can upload.
They'll move.
Go ahead.
But they'll move somewhere, change their name, and start doing the same shit all over again. That's what most of these companies do and did. It's kind of like Merck and Pfizer. Like, they're small corporations sold those pills that kill people, but it's still connected to Merck and Pfizer. And those people knew this shit in advance, still sold this stuff. They got a fine, then they got the fine repealed. And it's like, if you could just make mistakes and make money off of it, and once you get caught, nobody goes to jail, then it's just for profit to just do fraud. I mean, you can't set up a system like that. But
yeah,
this goes into the people protection type thing, and that's what people be like, oh, big daddy government. And I'm like, come on, man, we're talking about fraud here and basic protections for people. And some people are just okay with the simple fact that this is the Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
I don't like that kind of stuff.
And under the mass deregulation under 45, it only like proliferates, like, what's been going on.
Oh, yeah,
and
sure.
The fact that Betsy DeVos is Secretary, of Education, and she was once a part of for-profit, profiteering of education, is like, having these people that made all this private money off of it, they're in like these government offices, making sure that the stuff that we do have, these offices that we do have, are like relatively teethless when it comes to prosecuting or protecting the consumers, like the Consumer Protection Bureau.
Right. I remember back in the day, man, I forget the name of the company now, man. They used to sell IT certification videos, similar to CBT Nuggets. And they had a really good video on I forget what certification it was at the time. And so it said free for 10 days. And then, that was it. So I did the certification in like 5 days. The next thing you know, like a month later, I got a $2,000 bill on my credit. Yep. I said, "What the hell is this?"
Sure did. Mm-hmm.
So I looked at it, and they said, if you don't call and cancel within 30 days, they're gonna charge you $2,000. But that was never a part of the advertisement. The advertisement said, we have 10 free days access to training video bundle, act now or something like that. This was like in the early 2000s.
All these other countries have like no BS in the fine print stuff. Like, America's ran off fine print.
Yeah.
Like, oh, check it out. It's in .0000075 font that you're gonna get screwed. There ain't nothing you can do about it.
Oh, man, come on, I went to the Better Business Bureau, man, and reported them, man, and they
have no chief. They really can't prosecute anybody, and it's like,
Well, they went after him and contacted them, and we went back and forth for like 2 or 3 months. And after about 6 months, they removed the blemish from my my credit history, and actually gave me a full 6 months of access to the training videos.
I went through something similar with like one of these real estate schools, and I went through like the same thing, but I knew how to get my money back from them. I mean, it took a while. No, I mean, I got it back immediately because it was from American Express. American Express don't play that stuff, man. If it's any type of impropriety period, they will refund you into the story. So then they turn around and try to put it on my credit, and I'm like, all right, now I'm gonna sue you for thousands of dollars for ruining my credit. So what I did is once they did that, I just started applying for credit cards and just let all the stuff stack up. And so at the end of the day, I still got paid a lot of money on the back end because I knew how the system worked. Mm-hmm. And I knew they couldn't just turn around and put that stuff on my credit. I had a representative from American Express come to court and testify, because it's all fun and games until your ass end up in front of that judge. There ain't nobody in the universe who have any type of respect for this stuff. This is why they make sure they pay their way out of not going to court. Because if that court case come up, they're screwed, man. It's it's kind of like the same with insurance companies. People need to understand, anything go wrong, just go file a lawsuit, man. Don't even worry about it. Same thing, man. You got to hold these people accountable and responsible.
Yep.
Look at
Well,
Trump University. I mean, and what happened to those students in the lawsuit there? That goes all the way up.
Yeah, but they don't mean anything to like the new black Trump supporters that even happened. So it's not a big deal.
Yeah, just forget about that.
MLT said real estate school. What's that? It's like they teach you how to buy houses or something.
Yeah. I mean, he's not around anymore, but back then it was called Russ Whitney Real Estate Academy. Yeah. You had this boot camp, and they promised all these like angel investors and all that stuff. And in the fine print, it was like, well, you got to find your own stuff, but that was not part of any of the advertisements. So, you paid all this money, you went in, you didn't get what you wanted to, and then all of a sudden they just stopped answering the phone. I'm like, okay, where's the head office? Called up the local media. This big ass company did this to me, and I'm about to go file a lawsuit. As soon as that stuff came on TV, they got in contact with me immediately. And I'm like, look, yeah, you got to know how to apply pressure to these people. Because at the end of the day, nobody is above or beyond consequences or their reputation being dragged into the light. And you got to know how to be able to do that stuff. Otherwise, these people will just walk over everybody because they've been selling that stuff just like that for like apparently 10 or 15 years with no complaints until somebody tried them.
A lot of them get away with this type of stuff because people are so desperate and they're so gullible, man, to jump into these programs and make money in IT. They tried to sell this whole entire thing of you can $100,000, you can do this, that figure, and you get the gullible people, man. These are black people that I'm referring to. Like they were
black people and veterans, man. Black people and veterans is how they run most of these damn scams on people, man.
Yeah.
They know these people ain't got no direction, and they know. And if you're looking like they're behind the scenes training, that's exactly who they target. Like it's not even a secret. This is who they target.
Yeah. Now the objective now is, it's free to sign up. But when you graduate, this is how much you're going to owe. So you don't pay up front, you pay at the end. And so they got you in the program. Now, once you sit in that seat, you're committed.
Man, I can tell you this.
This whole thing is ran through fraud. But this is why you go Google and all this other stuff that don't need a profit margin off of this stuff, but they still put out good information. So.
Go ahead.
No, like we just had our faculty conference, man, and like one of the biggest things they talk about is how many veterans we get coming through the school. They got graphs, charts. I mean, that's like our number one thing is getting veterans in that school.
Yeah. There needs to be some stipulations behind how they can treat veterans. Not that I'm trying to say anything bad about private institutions, but veterans have to be protected nowadays, man, in the same way children are protected with this COPA thing. You just can't just prey on some veteran who might be on opioids or something like that, or some other amphetamine or something like that, because they're not clearly thinking. There needs to be some way to protect them because they're a different type of consumer. They got guaranteed money. They're a different type of consumer. So.
Like I said, I mean, most of this stuff would be considered fraud in other countries, but in America, it's just the way business is done until they actually get a case. They get a class action, they settle for an amount, then they don't end up paying that amount. So it's like all the money that they made, they get to keep. Like, come on, man. No punishment. Mm-hmm.
All right. I think we've pretty much covered everything. And I see that EG is in the chat, but he's a day late and $1 short for today. We're about to close out. So,
hey, Mike. Hey, real quick. Can we pencil in a cannabis hangout either for like tonight or tomorrow?
It has to be tomorrow. I think Dr. Phoenix and I are supposed to go live on the healthcare talk.
Later on tonight. Okay, let's pencil it for tomorrow.
All right.
Okay, cool deal.
What hour are you doing that so that way I can schedule my hangout after that?
What you mean tonight?
No. I'm talking about tomorrow night.
Tomorrow, the cannabis one.
Oh, tomorrow it should be around like 10 o'clock your time, Eastern Standard Time. So it should be 7 o'clock
PM.
in West Coast time.
Okay, yeah. So 7 o'clock Pacific, MOT.
Okay, all right. So I'll just do it a little bit earlier so that way we can be done after that.
Yeah.
I mean, before that starts. So cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Or
All right.
20.
All right. If you're trying to get into IT for the first time, we do offer IT mentorship. And if you're going from one IT role to another, we do offer IT coaching. If you are looking to have your resume looked at and have salary questions on salary negotiations, we do offer assistance in that area. If you are in the tri-state area and you're looking for IT contracts, Nagone 11 does have Rex on the table. Get in touch with him. Also, make sure you check the community tab because there are links for books and certifications on there. May be expired now. Peace and shalom.